Hari Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Swami Jyotirmayananda Society, our journey to self-realization. Please subscribe our channel for the mystical meanings and to enjoy daily satsang. We are currently exploring Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Commentaries by Swami Jyotirmayananda Maharaj, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. We are on chapter number 2, Sankhya Yoga, and today we are starting from shloka number 54, which is Arjuna Uvacha. Arjuna Uvacha Sthita Pragyasya ka bhasha Samadhisthasya Keshava Sthiti Dihi Kim Prabhasheta Kimasita Vrajeta Kim. So Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the characteristics of the sage who is established in Samadhi? How does he of steady wisdom speak? How does he sit and walk? So Arjuna was listening very attentively to Krishna about the wisdom he was receiving about the impermanency of the body and the eternal nature of the soul. So now he wanted to know, how does one achieve that state, that status? So it literally not how does a sage sit or talk or walk. What is meant by that is not the physical portions, but the mystical impact, like how does a sage influence others through his talk, through his wisdom, and how when you sit, meaning not physically sitting, but how is he adapting to the principles of life and the wisdom that he has acquired, etc. So it's more of a practical teaching than just the physical component. So based on this question, Lord will answer these questions of what does an enlightened sage look like. So these are very profound shlokas from shloka number 55 to the end of this chapter, which is shloka number 72, and beautifully done by Lord Krishna, which means Arjuna is asking these questions on our behalf. So if we will directly benefit by diving deep into um, the wonderful nectarine teachings of Lord Krishna. So Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, shloka number 55. So God has started speaking now to Arjuna. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanyevatmana tushtaha sthita pragyasta uchyate. So Shri Krishna said, O Arjuna, when a man completely renounces all the desires of the mind and is contented in the self, by the self, he is considered a man of steady wisdom. The self being your consciousness within. So, but it is important to denounce the desires that keep coming in our mind. So that is very important, to be contented if we need to progress on this path. Lord continues, shloka number 56. Dukkheshvanuddvignamanaha Sukheshu vigatsprihah Vitaragabhay krodhah Stita dhir muniruchyate. We are describing the characteristics of an enlightened sage. He who is not agitated in the midst of sorrowful conditions and who is devoid of craving in the midst of pleasant circumstances, who is free from attachment, fear, and anger. Such a sage is called a person of steady wisdom. Many people have these things, but only momentarily. Then they depart again. For a while, we'll not get angry, but then anger comes back, etc. So, it is very important to be consistently in that state of, only then can one be called a sthit pragya. So easily said, but each one of these things takes a lifetime of practice. To not be agitated by sorrow, to not have cravings bother you, and to be free from attachments of fear or anger. So that these shlokas are guidelines for us to learn and uh, try to get enlightened in this very life, as it is very much possible, but it does take sincere self effort. Shloka number 57. यः सर्वत्रानभिस्नेहस्तत्प्राप्य शुभाशुभं नाभिनन्दति न द्वेष्टि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. He who is without attachment under all circumstances while encountering good and evil, neither does he rejoice nor does he hate. His wisdom is established. In other words, someone who has equanimity of mind to handle both pleasure and pain with equal view. Moving on to shloka number 58. Yada sanharate chayam kurmo anganiva sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhya astasya pragya pratisthita. When he is able to withdraw his senses from the sense objects, even like a turtle withdraws its limbs, he is then established in wisdom. So here Lord Krishna is using the example of a tortoise or a turtle because it goes within and it feels like a stone when it's among stones. And um, so Lord Krishna says, when you see sense objects that are stimulating and are going to pull you towards them, instead of getting gravitating on those objects, go within, go in your shell like a turtle does, and stay away from those sense objects. Shloka 59. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rajasvajam rasoapyasya param drishtva nivartate. When one abstains from sense objects, they fall away from him, but the longing continues to linger in his mind. But even this longing falls away from him when the Supreme Self is realized. So, that is that state where this is known as Ras Buddhi in Sanskrit. Ras means the juice. So, although we are not physically touching or using the objects, the memory is still percolating in our mind. So, once we achieve self realization, even that ras buddhi dries up and it no longer affects us. That is the state of the enlightened soul. So, it's a very important shloka. Many people try to physically give up the objects, but then they entertain that object in their mind, they reminisce about it, etc. So, that also has to go away in the higher state. Shloka number 60. Yatato hayyapi kaunteya purushasya vipashritaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. Lord says to Arjuna, O son of Kunti, the turbulent senses forcibly carry away the mind of a wise man who is striving to control them. So, when even wise people are affected by the senses, what to speak of the ones who are indulgent? So, this is why Lord asks us to become like a turtle, to go within, because these senses will otherwise forcibly carry us to the sense objects. Moving on to shloka number 61, God says, Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vashe hi yasyendriyani tasya pragya pratisthita. The yogi, having controlled his senses and having collected his mind with one pointed devotion, sits steadfast and focused on me. For once his senses are under control, his wisdom becomes steady. So, this is where God guides us of one pointed devotion, because with that our concentration becomes intense and the thought waves settle down. That's when we get the wisdom. Moving on to shloka number 62. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः सङ्गस्तेषूपजायते सङ्गात् सञ्जायते कामः कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते. Here God is giving his reasoning. He says, by constantly dwelling upon objects, one develops attachment to them. From attachment there arises desire, and from desire anger is born. If the desire is not fulfilled or frustrated, and if it is fulfilled, then you want more and more of it. So either way we are agitated. Then Lord continues, Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti भ्रंशाद buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. Lord continues, he says, from anger there arises delusion, and from delusion, loss of memory. From loss of memory, one loses the function of pure reason, and with the loss of reason, one heads towards destruction, because when the intellect itself cannot analyze, then we are now at the level of lower animal species. We are no longer fit to be called a human being, and that is how degraded we get if we get trapped into the cycle of the senses. So how logically Lord Krishna has explained the trap of the senses, and how even wise people get stuck into this mesh. Further, moving on, shloka 64. रागद्वेषवियुक्तेस्तु विषयानिन्द्रियैश्चरन् आत्मवश्यैर्विधेयात्मा प्रसादम् अधिगच्छति. But the self controlled sage, though moving among sense objects with his senses restrained and free from attachment and hatred, attains supreme peace. Thus, that is the recipe for bliss. Once you start controlling the senses, they stop agitating you, and now you can focus deeper in meditation and experience bliss. So, with this, we conclude our satsang for today, and we will continue this journey in tomorrow's satsang from shloka number 65. Hari Om Tat Sat.